Guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my channel for those of you who are here for the first time. Today I'm going to be sharing with you my labor and delivery story. Right now I am currently in baby girl's room and it's not complete, but we're getting there. So I will be doing a nursery tour or organization of some sort sometime in the near future whenever I finish this room. So labor and delivery did not go as planned. I had to have an emergency C-section at 30 weeks and 2 days due to preeclampsia. So I'm gonna try to get through this story without shedding any tears. I would say that I had a pretty traumatic experience. And like I said before, it was something that wasn't expected. It did not go as planned. And, you know, I just had to get through it the best way I could. So, I had my baby girl on September the 3rd, 2021. My due date was November the 10th, 2021. So I had her 10 weeks early. So September 3rd, it was a Friday. I went to the doctor that morning for my regular OB checkup, and while I was there, when they were checking my vitals, the tech asked me if I've had high blood pressure throughout the whole experience. I don't think so. And I'm like, no, my blood pressure has been, you know, pretty steady the whole time. And so she was like, okay, let me get another machine because I don't think this one is working correctly. So she tried 3 different machines and my blood pressure was in the 180s. I can't even remember what it was, you know. So then my doctor came in. They brought an ultrasound machine, which I thought was a little odd because I wasn't expecting to have an ultrasound that day. They said they were going to do it closer to 36 weeks so we can look at the fibroid that I had to see if it had grown. So my OB comes in and she is doing the ultrasound and she's like, you know, I don't see it as much movement as I'd like, and I don't see a lot of fluid around the baby. So I'm gonna send you over to the hospital for monitoring. So she asked me if I felt dizzy, if I felt lightheaded, if I had a headache, and I'm like, no, I feel completely fine. So, you know, she said, okay, well, I'm gonna send you over to the hospital for monitoring. I'll call them and give them a heads up to let them know that you're coming. So going to the hospital that morning, I had no idea that going in, like there was not a chance that I was going to go home that day. When I went to the hospital for monitoring, I was still thinking that I was going to come home that day. I had plans with my brothers. We were going to do like a little surf and turf movie night. And so my brother was like, are you sure you still want to do it today? And I'm like, oh, I should be, you know, I should be home by this time. And so that never happened. I had to call my job. I had to let them know because I was supposed to go back to work after my doctor's appointment. My doctor's appointment was at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I ended up having my daughter at 8:14 that night. So when I got to the hospital, I checked in. They put me in a room. First, they kept my husband in the lobby until they did my intake, so they said. And they really asked me a series of questions like, do I feel safe? Do I feel that I'm in danger? If I felt that I was in danger, if I had someplace to go, like questions like that. I guess they start asking those questions to make sure people aren't experiencing domestic violence and those sort of things. And so I'm so glad that my husband, you know, was there throughout my whole pregnancy. He only missed one appointment because he had to work, but all of my appointments were scheduled on days where he would be off or he was available to come to the appointment. And really, through this whole journey, we've been walking through it. Like, he's been very supportive, and he's been with me pretty much the whole way. So I'm glad that my husband actually had been coming to all of the doctor's appointments, because little did we know she was coming that day. And I don't think I would have been able to handle it or go through that day as I did had I been by myself. It would have been a lot scarier. And I'm sure my blood pressure probably would have elevated even more. Okay, so back to the story. So I get to the hospital so they hooked me up to the monitors. They still haven't let my husband come in yet. They were asking a series of questions. They did a nurse change because one of the other nurses had a birthday. They were having some type of gathering in the break room. And so the charge nurse was finishing my intake or my questionnaire portion of getting me settled into my room. And next thing I know, I just see her stop what she's doing. I see her look. I see two other nurses run in. I see one person that has some fluids in her hand, and all I hear someone say was, "Yeah, that's why I rushed over here. I got it. That's why I rushed over here." And so no one was saying anything to me the whole time. Like I told you, my doctor just told me that, she was sending me to the hospital for monitoring. I didn't know how much monitoring. I'm thinking, we're going to get my blood pressure down. I'm going to go home. Another thing is that she did check my urine. She said that there was protein in my urine. So then she's mentioned preeclampsia. So the nurses come. The charge nurse puts a pillow under one side of my back. She's moving the monitor that's on my stomach. And so, I'm thinking, I know that whenever I have a Doppler at home that I use to check her heartbeat, and whenever she feels some type of pressure on my stomach or wherever area she is, she moves to the other side. So I'm just like, she just moved to the other side. That's what I'm thinking. And I tell the nurse that, and she's just like, "Oh yeah, we found it." And so we pretty much go for hours. Nobody's saying anything. They're monitoring, they're checking my blood pressure every 15 minutes on the machine automatically, and it was still elevated. So the only time I would hear little things is when the nurse would come in, if she would be on the phone with my doctor. I heard my doctor say something about magnesium, and I heard something about a steroid shot. A couple hours later, the director comes in right before the shift change, and she was saying, "Oh, have they told you the plan that your doctor, had?" And I was like, "No one has said anything to me at all." And then she looks at me and she says, "Well, you're not going anywhere anytime soon." And so I was just looking at my husband like, she's like, "Yeah, so, your doctor wants to start you on magnesium and possibly give you a steroid shot in case we have to take the baby." And I was just like, "Take the baby? Like, wait, how do we get to take the baby?" And so I looked at my husband. I was like, "Can you go home and pack a bag and come back?" Because as I said, we just went for a normal doctor's appointment. Like, we were not prepared to have a baby that day. My hospital bag wasn't packed yet because I was only 30 weeks. And I was going to start, packing my bag and stuff before I made it to 32, 33 weeks. And, it just didn't happen. So once my husband left to go home to get the bag, my doctor ends up coming over. And she was just like, your blood pressure is still extremely high. You know, we're going to give you a steroid shot that is going to help the baby with their lungs. And so ideally, she said that they would like to give 2, but they have to be 12 hours apart. So they would like to do it, 24 hours. And so I was like, so I could be having a baby tomorrow. And she said, or within the next few hours. The problem that they were having was, she said, if it was just your blood pressure, I would just keep you here for the next 3 or 4 weeks. And then we would have the baby once you made it to 34, 35 weeks. But she said that the baby's heart rate kept having these spontaneous dips every 30 to 45 minutes. And she just wasn't comfortable with that. So she said, they gave me the first steroid shot. She said that she had another C-section scheduled. And that she would come back after she was done to see where we are. And she was wanting to wait, that 24-hour window so that I can get 2 steroid shots because it would be better for the baby. Maybe 20 minutes later, she comes back because there was another dip. So at that point, the night nurse, she was very forthcoming with all the information. Whenever there would be, dips in the baby's heart rate, she would ask me to take deep breaths. It was to the point to where she was like, Mama, I'm going to have to take your phone. If you don't stay off your phone, I need you to stay calm. I need your blood pressure to stay low. And it was like, every time they came in the room to tell me another piece of information, my blood pressure would just go up. Like, it would start to go down, and then they would say something else, and it would go up. So they started me on magnesium. Once they gave me magnesium, they said I was a fall risk. So initially the nurse said that, I couldn't go to the bathroom by myself. I would have to call them for them to help me. And then not even 5 minutes later, she got an order to put a catheter in. And so this is my first time ever having a catheter. I was like scared. I was nervous. I'm like, that sounds like it's gonna hurt. And so she put in a catheter. My husband was still gone at this point. And so I'm like texting him like, babe, hurry up, come back. And so my doctor comes back in, and she said that there was another dip in the baby's heart rate. And she said, I don't feel comfortable waiting any longer. I was going to do my other C-section, but I think we need to do it now, because I don't want to wait and then we get to a point to where there's something wrong with you or there's something wrong with the baby. And so I was just like in shock. And so I just said, okay. I called my husband. I told him what she said. And I'm like, please hurry up and get here. So she said, they were prepping the room. I had to sign all the forms. And basically, I would be going into the OR, probably within the next 30 minutes. A part of me really just went numb at that point. Like, I didn't have time to process anything. I just basically had to go into survival mode to get through it and to make sure that I remained calm for not only myself but for my baby. And so I signed all the paperwork. I did the catheter. You had different techs coming in, the anesthesiologist coming in. And so my husband came right before they took me to the OR. So when he came, they gave him his gown to put on. They wheeled me down. I just remember one of my friends calling me, and she prayed with me. I put on like worship music to just kind of like calm myself and center myself and really just zone out. And obviously I prayed before going into the operating room, because I feel like the one constant thing that I've had this year is prayer. When this year started, we prayed, I fasted for my home, for my family, for so much that has come to pass this year. And my prayer has just been, you know, God, let your will be done. And if it's not for me, if it's not in your will, just give me the peace to accept it and to deal with it and to get through it. And so in that moment, I just, you know, I didn't believe that God would bring me to this point for us to lose, basically. And so I just had to go into survival mode, as I said. And we went down to the operating room. Then I was hungry. Like, I went to the doctor at 9 o'clock in the morning. Luckily, on the way to the hospital, we stopped at Wendy's and we ate. But once I got to the hospital, I couldn't have anything to eat. I couldn't have anything to drink. And so I was just tired and I was just ready to get it over with. So once I got back to the operating room, they gave me an epidural. The anesthesiologist, you know, had me lean over, hunch my back. He put it in. He's like, you know, this is the part that's going to hurt. Once he inserted the needle into my back, I didn't even flinch. And he came around the table. He's like, ma'am, are you okay? And I was just like, I'm just ready to get this over with. And so I lay back down. My husband came in and they started the C-section. So my doctor did say once she came that she did hear a little cry. Immediately after they took her out, they had to send her over to the NICU, the neonatal team. A vaginal birth wasn't an option because my doctor said that she didn't believe that the baby would be able to make it to handle vaginal delivery. She was only 2 pounds, and when I tell you guys, I had so much anxiety about labor and delivery. When I'm like, okay, she's only 2 pounds, I'm like, I can push that out. Like, I could do that. And she was like, no, we need to do a C-section. And so as I was laying on the table, they called my husband over. He got a chance to see her, take pictures, and he showed me. Before they left, they did stop by the bed, and I saw her through the little crate that they had her in, but I wasn't able to touch her. I wasn't able to do skin to skin. Like, those first moments, I didn't have those moments with her. And so you know, they finished up and we went into the recovery room. My family was just calling. Everyone was calling. And I just remember that night feeling like scared. I didn't sleep much that night. I remember calling the NICU. Like, every time I would doze off, I would probably sleep for like 30 or 45 minutes. And then I would call the NICU to check on her. Like, I didn't know make it. I know she was super small. She was really early. And I really didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what. But we made it. She made it. She is perfect. She is beautiful. She is healthy. And she's a fighter. I thank God that everything worked out and we haven't had any major issues in regards to her. But that was one of the most scariest experiences that I have ever had in my entire life. Like I said, it didn't go as planned. We didn't make it to the baby shower. I never got a chance to do my maternity pictures. I was supposed to do my maternity pictures the following week. I never made it to the maternity pictures. I never made my baby moon. Like, there was so many things that just didn't go as planned, but at the end of the day, we have our baby, and she's healthy and she's beautiful, and that's the most important thing. We rescheduled our pictures for the maternity shoot, and we're just gonna do a family portrait. We're just gonna do a family portrait instead, but I just remember before going to the OR, crying when my friend called and prayed with me. I just remember crying because I was so scared. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what was going to happen, and having, you know, lost babies in the past, miscarriage. I just didn't know what to expect. I will say that I have heard horrifying stories of women with preeclampsia having to have emergency surgery, their organs shutting down, you know, even some fatal, whether it be the mom or the baby. And so after everything happened, everything settled down, when I went for my first postpartum appointment, I thanked my doctor for making that decision as fast as she did. Because I've heard stories of doctors who wait, and then, you know, mom is in distress or baby is in distress, and now they're rushing to do a C-section. And one thing my doctor did say to me was that she didn't want to wait and then rush because something has gone wrong. And I appreciated her making that decision when she did. Prior to this, I had no issues with my pregnancy. You know, everything was normal. I did have COVID a month before, and my doctor thinks that that could have triggered something because she also stopped growing. She was 2 pounds, and she hadn't really grown much since our last appointment, and so she thinks that COVID triggered something and was a result of preeclampsia and me going into me having to have a preterm labor. And so you know, the nurse practitioner told me that statistically females do a lot better than males, and that we would have a long road ahead of us, but, you know, she was hopeful. This was prior to me having my C-section, when she came in to talk to me. And so I remember before I left the hospital, well, I didn't see her that night. I didn't get a chance to hold her for... Actually, before I left the hospital, I was able to hold her. I wasn't able to do skin to skin for like a week or two after she was born. But that night, like, I didn't see her, so the only thing I could do was call and check on her. Also, they had, the lactation consultant, my doctor, a nurse told me not to pump that night. She said to wait until the next day and then to start pumping every 2 hours, so that my breast milk can come in. But she's home now. I had planned on doing so many videos, especially now that we've moved into our home. nesting, what's in my hospital bag, like, you know, pregnancy updates, pregnancy pampers with me, what I eat in the day while pregnant. And it's just so much that I didn't get to do. I didn't, you know, like I said, the baby shower. We did end up having the baby shower 2 weeks after. We still had the baby shower as planned because everything was already paid for. You know, people were already coming in. And so we did the baby shower. Obviously, she just wasn't there and I wasn't pregnant. And then everything else we canceled. I thought that I would, you know, like document this part of my journey, but going back and forth to the hospital from the NICU, like, it was a lot for me emotionally and mentally, and I wasn't really in a place where I could share, or that I really wanted to, because it took a couple weeks for me to even, you know, exhale and for me to be like, okay, she's okay now, like, she's gonna make it. When she was first born, they did intubate her, but then they extubated her immediately after because she was breathing on her own. She did have to go on a CPAP machine for a couple of weeks. She had to do blue light therapy a few times for jaundice. And then she had ROP in her eyes. So I can go into, I can do a more in-depth video of that whole experience. I do have little clips here and there. I have a clip of when I was in the hospital after giving birth, and a few other things that I might just throw in. But for those of you who have gone through or are going through preterm labor due to preeclampsia or, you know, what have you, just know that everything will work out and you stay strong and you pray and you will get through it. Those days of going back and forth, sometimes it can feel lonely. You know, you're doing it exhausted, having to pump, and, you know, it can be a lot, but there is a finish line. She spent 7 weeks in the NICU, and at times it felt like it was going slow, and at times it felt like it was going pretty fast. We hadn't finished her nursery. We haven't finished her nursery. But at that point, we had not started on the nursery at all. Like, not one thing we started on the nursery. And so I know we wanted to do an accent wall, which is over here. We had to do paneling, painting, so much. And so, you know, that time that she was in the NICU, it allowed us to still prepare our home and to prepare ourselves to bring her home. But I'm so grateful and so thankful that we have our little angel, our little miracle baby, and she's home. She's been home for about 3 weeks now, and we've just been loving on her, you know, and taking in and savoring these moments of our new family, our little family. And so thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't, please go ahead and subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Let me know if you have any questions or what you want to see next. If you want me to talk about my NICU experience, and I will be sharing baby girl with you all soon. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.